Thank you for the introduction. I am DM Jones. I'm the executive director of Murray Grove, which some of you may know of. And prior to that, I um, co-founded and directed a multi-genre creative writing program for 20 years. It was exclusively for writers of color and the only one in the world. We were based at 6 different universities. And my history includes a lot of things, including running arts councils, mostly serving people. And I'm really honored to be here tonight. My wife was scheduled to be the host, and I'm going to help out as I can because you all are such a fantastic group of open minds and willing minds to do some thinking. Um, so welcome. But before we begin, I think that we have to look at where we stand, look at the ground that we stand on. It's not that what we bought from the bank. It's not what we pay the landlord rent on. We have to go back to the original owners of these lands and ask their permission. We ask the permission of the Lene Lenape tribe to have this meeting, to have this gathering, to have this space. And we also ask all the elders here to give us permission to move forward with this discussion. So I'm not sure who would like to claim to be an elder, but if I can see a show of hands of someone who dare take that role and say, I am an elder and I give permission for us to gather. Can I see a hand? Uh-oh. Okay, thank you, Irene. I was gonna raise my hand because I know I'm old as dirt. Um, so thank you again. Thank you, Sarah Klepner, for organizing the evening with Jillian, Ramona, and Amy. Um, I have a couple of, so my role tonight is to introduce us, to get us going. And to do that, I want to set up what we're going to be doing this evening, why we're here. And I think I can do that best with a little bit of sharing of screen. And we're going to call this, sorry, got to fill the screen so you don't see all the other stuff. Deepening in color, voices of the Black experience. A lot of talk these days about racism, about anti-racism, about things that we haven't seen. But I think that an anchoring thought I'd like to share was written over 100 years ago, and I will read it, and you can see it on your screen. This is from W.E.B. Du Bois, The Soul of Black Folk.
Okay.
After the Egyptian and the Indian, the Greek and the Roman, the Teuton and the Mongolian, the Negro is sort of a seventh son, born with a veil and gifted with second sight in this American world, a world which yields him no true self-consciousness, but only lets him see himself through the revelation of other world. It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness, the sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others, of measuring one by one the tape of a world that looks on in amused contempt and pity, looks on with an amused contempt and pity. One ever feels this two-ness, an American, a Negro, two thoughts, two unrecoiled strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body, whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder. The history of the American Negro is a history of this strength, this longing to attain self-consciousness, manhood, to merge his double self into a bitter and truer self. In this merging, he wishes neither of the older selves to be lost. He simply wishes to make it possible for a man to be both a Negro and an American.
And you know what? That's the thing. That's the thing they call a Negro. Why do we always have to be subject to as a Negro? Why? Why can I be as a colored man, black man, or self man? Can no no that's the problem. I have a part, stop calling me. That's the problem. Don't label me. Don't label me as a person because I'm a human being. Don't label me as a Negro, a Negrette, a Negro. A, don't please. A hoe or a bitch or Please don't put me in the category. Please put me as a woman. I'm a woman.
Mhm.
That's what I was born as. When the sperm has when it collaborated with my mother and my dad, when it collaborated, I was born as a child. I
So,
wasn't born as a Negro,
Excuse me,
a
Alicia.
Alicia,
black one.
Alicia,
Alicia.
Alicia, we have a program and
Yeah,
there'll be
you
room
can
for
reflect
discussion.
afterwards. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Please.
All right, then go ahead, do what you gotta
Alicia,
do.
please.
I'll keep quiet.
Yeah, please wait till we're done. Okay. There's 3 speakers. Okay. After your auntie, then Jillian. Okay.
Mhm.
So please wait. You have a lot to say is good, but just not right now. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a program tonight, but a calling to actions. When we see and when we interact with someone, I think we've been programmed to do what? Look at our differences. So I'm going to try to flick the switch and ask you all to, as you meet new people, as you meet the speakers tonight, the first question that you should ask is, what do I have in common with this person or circumstance? And then ask, what's different about our cultures, our position, our resources? Because if we take it from that perspective, we can begin to appreciate our commonalities as well as our differences. It's been often said we have more in common than we do different, but I say we have to appreciate both. When we can appreciate both, the healing begins. So tonight, we have several speakers who have come to share their story, and there'll be time for everyone to interact and ask them questions afterwards. We give a short introduction of them, and then we're going to roll on with this program. Fabulous program. Thank you again, Sarah, for making this happen. I think it's important during these times that we do dialogue. And dialogue is a two-way street. Dialogue is not just listening, it is hearing as well as speaking.
Mhm.
So one of our speakers tonight is Isis Ra, an elder, healer, drummer, artist, and child of the universe. Also joining the dais tonight is Lorraine Stone, writer, storyteller, and actor. And last, but apart, because all are equal, is Gillian Omotoso, a singer, songwriter, poet, actress, and Nigerian-American transgender woman. These spirits have come forward tonight to tell their stories, to share their wares, so we all can gain better insights on not just who they are, but perhaps we can better understand who we are. So with that said, thank you again for coming. And Lorraine Stone, come forward. I will stop sharing my screen.
Where's she at?
All right. Lorraine?
Lorraine? Where you at, Lorraine?
It looks like Lorraine is muted.
What happened?
It looks like Lorraine is muted.
Oh boy, that's not cool. Teresa, are you still there?
Wait a minute. If you're not a presenter, please mute yourself. We have to coordinate this.
Is she even on the call? Is she on the call?
I don't see her.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Lorraine is where Sarah Klepner is with Sister Isis. They're sitting next to each other.
Yes, we are here. Greetings, everyone. Good evening. We are going to start off a little bit differently. My intention was to read the poem, The Lynching, which I wrote for the play Black Lives. It's about Sister Isis' experience, and it's home on the kitchen table waiting for me to get back.
Thank you, baby.
It's not here. So I put out a feelers, and maybe it will appear in my email before the evening is over, and I will read it later. In the meantime, my job this evening, aside from reading the poem, was to interview Sister Isis, Rosalie McNair, her birth name. And that poem was about her experience as a 3-year-old child, seeing her uncle hanged from a tree in front of her house after he and his wife displeased a group of white men when they had gone into town to do some shopping. I won't go through any more of it. Hopefully I will be able to get it and then I'll share it in total. However, Sister Isis is here and she's lived a lot of years after that terrible event. And so, Sister Isis, good evening.
Good evening.
Hotep Mother.
Hotep.
When I was thinking about putting this together, Sister Isis was born in Florida, as so many African American people were born south of here. I won't say south of the Mason-Dixon because that's actually tip of New Jersey. So, yeah, so if you wonder why New Jersey is in so much trouble, oh, that's another story. Okay, I won't go there right now. Many of us came from down south to up south, as it turned out to be. Sister Isis, I want to ask you how long you lived in Florida. When did you come north?
I was about 4.
Okay, and you came with your children at the time.
Yes.
Now, was that about in the 60s?
Yes.
So that makes Sister Isis part of the Great Migration, and all of us, I'm sure, are familiar with the Great Migration. She was one of millions of African Americans who could not tolerate the South any longer. Now, this didn't happen all at once. I believe the migration began in the 30s and went on until the 60s. So she's part of history in more ways than I ever realized. But why New Jersey? What made you come here?
My sister, Edith Nancy, Agnes Fletcher, and my brother Chuck, Joseph McNair.
And were they here in this area?
Yeah, it was in Neptune.
They were in Neptune. Okay. A little bit louder.
Yeah, they were in Neptune.
But when you first came, did you yourself move to Neptune first?
Yes.
And
It was a long journey from where I was to here. Yeah. We won't go through that.
it was quite a story, and
Yeah.
that would take us more than the time we have allotted.
Yes.
But there was a time that you lived in Newark, was there not?
Yes. I moved there first.
Oh, that's what I thought. So first to Newark, and in Newark, you became very involved in the community, in the artistic ways. What did you do in Newark?
First of all, I was a dancer. I danced with fire. I was an artist.
Okay, wait. You dance with fire.
Yes.
See, I know this,
Yes.
but most of you all probably don't know this. And because I'm a dancer, she said to me one day, I could teach you to dance with fire. And I said, no, thank you very much. I'm really happy dancing the way I am.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I know.
So go ahead.
I would do it.
Fire, yeah, you would. Fire dancer.
That's my wisdom right there.
Dancing with fire. I was teaching children drumming in Newark. I worked with the mayors in Newark. I helped Gibson get in.
Well, you were, let me say, you were there very early.
Yes.
So you saw the first Black mayor
Yes.
come to Newark.
Yes.
And that was Ken Gibson.
Yes, I would help. I voted for him.
You voted for
we
it?
We got him walked and got people to come in for
And you
whatever.
worked,
And
you
we
worked
worked,
to
yeah,
have him
yeah.
elected. Okay, okay. What about, did you do any work with children in the schools or after school or?
Kids, loose kids that didn't have anything to do with themselves, they would always find me. I worked with Freddie Roach, Amir Baraka, just with children and drumming and teaching people. I went.
All right, all right, all right. And as you went through your day-to-day work in Newark, you had children of your own? How many?
5.
5. Wow. And you had time to
Had to do what you gotta do.
give
You gotta
yourself to have
survive.
children as well.
Yes.
So you took care of your 5 and any other 5 that
Yes,
happened to
yes.
come along.
Yeah, I'm hungry. Eat.
Yes.
What are you doing with yourself? Let's play the drums. Okay, we want to play the drums, or they came to play the drums. Anything to get off the street, or anything to get a good hot meal. Because when my kids ate, all kids ate.
Now you lived in Newark for how long? And I believe you owned a home in Newark.
Yes. My own, yeah, I own a home.
Yeah, you owned your
18th
home in
Street,
Newark, on 18th Street in Newark. And then the time came when it was time for you to leave Newark.
Yes, all my children had went out to college, went to do whatever they wanted to do, and the house was no more. I got the house for my children that they didn't have to live in an apartment; they would have their own house. And I was raised in a house, so I gave my children a house. And,
you the special
when they become grown women and men, I had to walk away from it. I couldn't afford it, and went for tax.
Okay. Okay. So at that point, you came down here to the Jersey Shore.
Sometime after that.
Sometime after
Yeah,
that.
a little while, because my sister was getting sick. So I came to see about her. Her name was Edith Mitzi.
Mhm.
Everybody knows Mitzi Grocery Store. Agnes Fletcher and my brother, Joseph McNeil Chuck.
And they were here.
They were here, yes.
Yes. So when you came here, the children found you or you found them?
They found me. They heard about this sister was playing drum. They played drums. So they all started coming, we want to play the drums. And then the mayor asked me to come and play the drums for City Hall. And then people started saying, we'll come and play here, go play there. So I played the drums.
You want to yell at the computer, as loud as you can.
Okay, I played the drums everywhere. But my main thing was dancing with the fire. I think that's what drew people to me.
And of course, we're gonna have another fire dance.
And Aunt Freddie Roach, he gave me the name Isis.
Who gave you that name?
Freddie Roach, Aunt.
And was that here in,
That was in Newark,
that was in Newark?
yes. Because I didn't want to travel with my name. I'm a runner. I
Okay.
ran from my husband, so I wound up with the name Isis. He said, you don't want him to find you, change your name. So that's what I did.
And what does Isis mean?
The sun goddess.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And you've been shining on people
Yes.
ever since?
Oh, yes. Yes. Before and after. Yes.
Before and after.
Yes.
Now, when you came to this area, I met you when you came here.
Yes.
Must have been in, I don't know, I think I met you in the 90s.
Yeah.
I think. And at that time, you were spending some time at the West Side Community Center.
Yes.
You want to tell us about that?
I worked with children. I taught them drumming. I helped feed them. If they didn't have food to eat, I would bring peanut butter jar, big peanut butter jar, jelly, make them sandwiches, and they would water. Sometimes they would eat there. If they didn't eat there, I would have that there for to feed them. And the kids would come. They would come to the West Side. Even if they just came to eat, they would come. And some of them would play the drums. So if they came and they heard other kids playing the drums, they wanted to play the drums too. So I got a lot of children playing the drums.
Well, I remember you did some other things at the West Side too. I mean,
Dancing.
the dancing
modeling,
and crafts.
crafts, arts and crafts.
I
and-
remember the cigar boxes.
Yes. cleaning the cigar boxes, covering it with material.
With African fabric.
Yes.
Good.
And I also brought one of my paintings of art on canvas. And I taught the children everything that I could teach them the time that I was there about herbs and art and just getting along with one another. No fighting, no spitting, no
No cursing.
no cursing. And they got along in there and they thrive. Some of my children are playing in churches. Some of my children are playing all over. I could be to I was at the Cooler Cafe and the kids said, "Hi, Sister Isis. Hi, we love you. We miss you. When we gonna play drums again?" So they still remember me.
Now I can remember,
Ah,
I was certainly not one of the children, but Sister Isis took me under her wing as sort of an apprentice. And she would go out
what?
picking herbs and she'd show me this little thing growing. And as far as I was concerned, it was a weed, but it had a name and it had a purpose. And she educated me in that. I remember the day, the lot is gone. A lot of the places where
yes,
we
yes.
went are
Yes.
now gone. But she had a hatchet and we were hacking off bark. What
Yes.
were we getting? You remember? Sassafras. We were getting sassafras.
tea. Yes.
So I learned that stuff my mother gave me when I was a little girl with the measles was actually the bark from a tree.
Yes.
And she showed me how to make a tea out of it.
Yes.
Another fond memory I have of Sister Isis' house, and I was in and out of Sister Isis' house. Like I said, you would have thought I was one of the children. She always had, there were usually 2 pots on the stove. One was a pot of beans, of course, and the other was a pot of tea.
Yes.
And in the winter, I don't know what was more important, that hot tea to take the chill off or that nice bowl of beans to fill up the belly
Yes.
and make you warm on the inside.
Yes.
And I remember that back in the, by the time I met you, it was the 90s. So Black Power was acceptable.
Yes.
It wasn't liked,
Yes.
not any more than it is liked universally now. But it was something that we could embrace.
Yes.
And Sister Isis brought something to us to help us really expand that feeling and that understanding. And it was called the Paradise Street Festival.
Yes. Yes.
Do you remember what that was?
Well, I started the Paradise Street Festival to give the children that I was teaching at the West Side Community Center to display their talent. And we would go out and we would play the drums. They had models and kids wanted to model, they wanted to sing, whatever they wanted to do, I would let them. They did poems, Still I Rise, poems about Martin Luther King, all of the heroes that they knew about, they would tell their story. And kids that wanted their artwork done and the ones that played drums or whatever they did at the West Side, I brought them out to the park on Lake Avenue, right across the street from Second Baptist Church. We had the whole lot. We were full of the whole lot with tents and drums.
Now,
And-
it wasn't even a park then, guys. It was
a
a tract of land
Yes.
where housing and buildings had been demolished. And it just laid fallow. And what Sister Isis did was decide to create, she and a friend, Jamia Wadu, created this Paradise Street Festival. And there were drummers, not just the children, there were professional grown-up drummers, dancers,
Singers.
food, wonderful food, singers. And I know the Paradise Street Festival was on, that was Springwood Avenue. And it was there probably two or 3 years.
20 years.
No, just in that one place.
yes.
No, wasn't there that long.
Yeah.
I'm not that old.
About-
Stop
yeah, maybe a little bit longer than that.
But then it moved.
Yes.
You know, it's funny. how people may not want you around and they don't encourage you to say much and do much. But if you keep doing it, and that is one thing I can say about Sister Isis. Once she starts, she keeps doing it. And we ended up in Sunset Park
Yes.
doing the Paradise Street Festival. And I have one small photograph. You know, that was back in the days we didn't have cell phones, or else we'd have pictures, and social media and all of that had not even been thought of. Well, not by us anyway. But I do have one picture of the platform, and the drummers were hard at work. And it was a wonderful day. It always was.
Please do. Let me see it.
So when that came to an end, I remember Sister Isis, you had an accident.
Yes. I got my leg broken in half.
Out there trying to hop over things on Route 35. I'm gonna tell it because she was in pursuit
I'm gonna
of
tell it.
getting things together for the festival. So unfortunately, that was an accident that really caused her to slow down, and the festival ground to a halt after that. But that didn't stop her. Then there was something called Isis Notions. Do you want to tell
Yes.
us about that?
I make lotions, soaps, I had all different kinds.
Oh, wait. Before lotions, because I helped with the first lotion. But before that, we have a good lotion story. But before that, what were you selling?
Soaps,
No, those
long incense. Oh,
long
yes.
sticks of
Yes.
incense.
The thick incense. It was about 4 feet. Yeah. You could burn it in the yard,
Yeah, you can
or
put
you
it
could
outside.
wrap aluminum foil around it and burn it in your house.
Sister Isis would get on the train going from here to Newark, and I don't know how much money she might make in a day between incense, and once she started doing lotion, she was able to sell her wares as she was on the train, and people would look for her.
Yes.
But then I think one day somebody said something about how about lotion? Can you do some lotion?
Yes.
So she said, yeah, I think I can do that. I said, well, you got a blender.
Yes.
So she started blending it up in the blender.
Yes.
And can you tell us some of the ingredients?
Olive oil, castor oil,
Say.
shea butter, shea oil. I had so many different oils and
That's true.
fragrance.
Black castor oil.
Black castor oil, all kind of fragrance, different kind of fragrance.
And I would come over and help her mix, and we'd make up fragrances. We'd create things together. And one night, I don't know how this happened, but she was pouring the lotion out of the blender, and it ended up all over the floor. And at the time, we both had long locks. So there we were down on the floor,
Putting it in the lock.
mopping up the lotion with our hair. It was, no, we couldn't. It's one of my favorite memories. But you still make the lotion now with the help of your daughter?
Yes, her just taking over the business.
Okay. And soaps
Soaps.
and
Matter of fact, everybody wants the soap. I have the Reiki soap.
oh,
So we're making the Reiki soap,
okay.
and everybody wants that. So,
All right.
you know, Bill wants his.
It certainly
He
does.
just moved. He got to have his. Betty has to have hers.
And
So-
Sister Isis, you also are a Reiki practitioner. Is that correct? Yes. So she drums. She practices Reiki. She's an herbalist. She's a dancer with and without fire. And
Yes.
and then one last thing, because I know we have to let some other people talk. Okay. Oh, look at that.
I got it on.
Well, let me get mine.
Activism. I think I probably didn't focus enough. I talk so much about her
Let me
art.
let me get my floor too.
And,
Yeah.
wait a minute, Alicia. You gotta wait. You gotta
I
wait.
ain't getting none. I better mute myself.
Okay, mute you, Alicia. Mute yourself.
Love you.
And activism is something that started in Newark with the election of that first black mayor,
Yes.
and then it continued here. There have been many issues, I
Yes.
imagine, here
Yes.
in Neptune, in
I can't
Asbury.
even name them. I can't even name people that have been behind and have gotten them in the chair, and not only here, outside of here.
Mhm.
I even rallied for Obama, and a
Oh.
lot of people here.
Mhm.
I was out there for a lot of people outside of here. I have been like Pamela.
Yeah, Pamela in Neptune City.
Yes, yes, yes. I have
And
to-
Ed Johnson and
Ed Johnson,
and
yes.
Carl Williams.
Carl Williams, yes.
Yes. All the other mayors that have come through. Certainly, City Hall in Neptune and in Asbury Park knows who Sister Isis is.
Yes. I come to help. I was brought here by Alicia's mother. She said, "You are down there working with the children in North. So we please, please, please heard her friend Betty. Please come, please come. We need you to come and help get the kids off the street. They're getting killed by the cops. Please come, please." And they cried, and they pleaded. I said, I'm busy, I'm busy. They said, no, you got to come down here and save the children. The cops are killing the children in the streets. You got to come down here and save the children. I said, okay, I'm going to come down there for a couple of weeks, and I'm coming back home. Well, by the time I got here and started working with the children and worked for a while, my sister started getting sick. So her name was Edith Mepsi. She had the store
She had a store
on
right
Lake
on.
Avenue.
Mhm.
She fed a lot of people, and a lot of people still owe her.
A
But,
lot of people remember Mincy's
Yes,
store.
grocery store.
Yes.
And the Fletcher boys, and
Mhm.
Agnes Fletcher and my brother Chuck. He was a top chef cook in
Mhm.
Newark.
Mhm.
So I came to help with my family, and they helped me, and I helped them, and we grew. And I'm the last of the Mohicans. I'm the last of my family, my sisters and brothers. My mother passed and my father passed.
Is anybody still in Florida?
Nieces, cousins,
Okay.
no. My aunt had a house there, and my grandmother had a house there. And if they haven't sold it, they might just be renting it out.
Mhm. But it's still in the family.
It's still in the family.
Wow. That's really impressive.
But I told them, don't worry about me. I don't want anything. Y'all keep it.
And you're not going,
No, I'm not going
you're
back.
not going
No,
back.
no.
No,
Sister
you're not going back.
Sorry to interrupt, but there's a question about how to purchase the soaps and the lotions.
You have to call me.
Yeah, so if you want to, well, just by
We'll put it
phone.
in the chat.
Yeah, go, yeah. 732-988-0711.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Maybe you could repeat that.
The phone number is 988-0711. Area code is 732. She's had that phone number for years, and the way I remember it is I know the prefix is 988, and then it's 711.
Yes.
That's how I've done
You don't know? I already know.
it. In the midst of her creativity and teaching and activism, and in Asbury Park and in Neptune, you have been in the schools
Yes.
doing drumming. And
Yes.
in fact, very often we end up on a program together, and
Yes.
that's always fun.
Yes.
But the other thing that Sister Isis is an accomplished artist, and I didn't know this for a long time. And I think you have one piece with you today, don't you?
Yes.
So what can you tell us about this?
This is a quilt, and it's made out of scrap African material, which some of my clothes
I
had
can't
scrap.
see it, Auntie. Hold it up.
There you go.
Okay, baby.
Let me move.
How does it look on the screen?
You can see it on the screen.
Can you see it now?
Turn it sideways.
Yes, I can see it now. Yeah.
And this is a little pillow, and it has clove in it. And I put this together because I want to do art with material and show people what you think is garbage. You can take garbage and make
Hold it up, Auntie. I can't see it. Hold it up.
beautiful
Okay.
things out of. So it would just be a pile of scraps, which I took and I put it together, and I made this. I covered the canvas with material, and I took clothes and sewed it into the little bag to make the pillow. And I'm an artist. I won first place, first prize about 5 times in Asbury Park.
It's well, wait, no, it was wider than that.
I'm about to go get the mirror.
It was
Oh yeah,
it was
I did a mural. I did
I'm about to go get it.
art and ceramics.
I know 3 times she won first place among seniors in Monmouth County for her paintings. And I believe she's also received a couple of other awards that I don't have on the top of my head. But you paint with oil, is that correct?
Or I think any kind of paint.
Okay, if you give her paint, she'll use it.
Yes. Yeah.
Oils or acrylics, and also
Water.
some sculpture.
Yes. And sculpture. I'm doing ceramics, but now I will be
See
doing
it?
molding clay in the future. Yes,
Okay.
this is one of the things that I did. That's from the ceramic class. It's a ceramic circle with a unicorn with a mirror inside.
Mm.
And this is a gift I gave.
Can you see it? Can they see it?
Yes, we see it.
Can they see it? Can they see the whole picture?
Well,
Can
we
they-
can see it. I don't think everybody can. And
Yes.
and where do you do some of your studying?
Well, I'm in Long Branch now
Okay.
at the J with
Can you see the picture? Can you see the mirror?
yeah,
Can they see it?
Yeah, we can all
Can
see
you
it.
see-
Yes.
yes.
I want them to take a picture of this.
And
Yeah.
also, you've been at
It's
in
my art.
Yes,
This,
it's
this is her work
at the
right
J
here.
in Long Branch. So I do ceramics at the J, and I do ceramics at
This is the mirror. We can see
Uh,
yourself anytime you want to see yourself.
Okay.
it's the Jewish Center.
The
Yes.
JCC?
Yes.
No, this is mine. This is
No.
mine.
No.
I said I did that mirror
Who called Alicia?
at the I did that mirror at the J in Long Branch at the Jewish Center. And I also do some things at the Neptune Senior Citizen Center.
Well, Lorraine don't have to know everything.
Well, I'm telling you what I do.
Well, she see it.
Well, I do more than that. I'm an
This is mine.
I'm an artist. I'm a creator of. I could take if I see something on the ground, I can take a piece of wood and make
Yeah.
create
See?
something out of it.
This is here.
Oh, remember all those shells and sea
Yeah.
glass from we used to go to
It
the
looks like you gonna hurt her.
I can take shells,
Red State.
take shells. I
This
still
is
would like to go
mine.
back to the beach and do some more meditation. I have to go back because Baba Alitunji was my godfather. He adopted me, and he took us to the ocean, and he baptized me, and he said, "This piece of land is for you to bring people to be healed." So he blessed the land. So I bring people there and I heal them, baptize babies, and baptize people that getting married and doing different things in their life. They would like
I
to
just want them to see your creation, what you did, before I get on there and speak.
We've seen it. We see it.
yeah, we see it.
Okay, ma'am, don't talk so smart. That's my aunt. Okay? Don't get disrespectful. That's my
Alicia,
aunt.
darling.
Alicia,
Yeah.
if you could let everybody else enjoy your auntie too. I don't think anybody's trying
I
to
know.
or put you
I
down.
know. I know. I know. I know. Okay. I'm gonna mute myself. Yep. Do it.
All right. So we just had a landmark presidential election.
Yes, I was in it.
And were you involved with some
Yes,
volunteering and
yes,
okay.
yes.
Anything else you've done recently?
A little bit everything.
George Floyd.
Yes, I did. I marched for George Floyd. I marched for Breonna. I'm out there because my uncle got hung, lynched, and drugged, and I will never forget it. It's a legacy of my family that I can't not turn a blind eye when I see hurt and deadly things done to not only my people, but anybody. You have to stand up and say something. You have to do something about it. You just can't sit back and let people get killed for no reason and don't say nothing. So I was out there for Breonna. I was out there for George Floyd. I was out there for a brother that I don't think he died, but he was
who was shot. He didn't die.
Yes, yes. So I've been out there.
Mhm.
I even back to Trayvon Martin.
Mhm.
I marched for Trayvon. If there's something going on, I'm out there and I get involved. I try to make a difference, not only for my people, but for anybody that's hurt or going through it. You know, I try to make a difference and make life better, give love where hurt is.
Well, thank you, Sister Isis. This is the amazing Rosalie McNair. She is a survivor of much. And I'm not going to tell you how many years she's been surviving and thriving. We'll just leave that alone. Because as a friend of ours says, a woman who will tell her age will tell anything. So we'll just leave it be. But there's one thing that I remember about Sister Isis, and I think you told me that your sister said this, and that was, don't tell me what I can't do.
Tell me what you don't want.
Tell me what you want me to do.
Yes.
Okay. Because whatever it is, I know I can do it.
Yes.
Just don't tell me I can't.
Yeah.
And that has been Sister Isis. She has taken on whatever it is she sees is the right thing to do, the needed thing to do. She has taken it on and going forward. So, Umi.
Yes. Ashe.
Blessings. It's been
You know, Auntie, I'm about to go. I'm about to get off. I'm not saying nothing else to nobody else because I don't want to offend nobody else. So I'm not saying anything else on this telecast or phone cast because they don't want to hear nothing I have to say. So I'm about to hang up with you two, and I love you. And Lorraine, you just don't know. You don't know. You did a whole lot for me right there. Showing my auntie right there. That's what I want.
Girl.
You don't know. Put her on broadcast because when the fire dance come out, they just don't know when the fire come out. When you walking on them coals, tell them, Auntie, do you know? Tell them.
I walk through hot coals.
Yes. And then next year or two, tell them to come out and have their brochures because Isis is going to be on coals. She's gonna be walking on ice coals and doing a fire dance, blowing, and I'm be right there in the rain, maybe too. Put on her booty shorts.
Okay, hold up. All right, Alicia, thank you. And thank you, everyone. That's the end of this segment. And now I'm not sure who we're moving on to. Oh, we're moving on to me, but I've been talking. Okay, so about me. This is my home, Asbury Park at Neptune. Born and raised. Started school in Asbury Park. and ended up graduating from Neptune High School. Um, I loved living in Asbury Park. I thought I was the luckiest little girl in the world because everybody came to Asbury Park. My cousins who lived in New York couldn't wait to get down here to visit. So I thought there must have been something special. But I learned that everything wasn't equal. Now, understand that when I grew up in Asbury Park, and I grew up on the west side, whether I lived in Asbury or in Neptune, I was living on the west side. And everything that you could want to buy, you could buy on Springwood Avenue. I'd like to say anything from a bucket of chitlins to a chinchilla coat, you could get it on Springwood Avenue. There was the fish market, there was Knuckles Electric, there was the hardware store. Of course, there was House of Hits record store. There were 2 pharmacies when I was a child, but there had actually been 3 right on Springwood Avenue. So I didn't want for anything. There was places to go shopping. There were wonderful restaurants and luncheonettes and all of that. And because we went to neighborhood schools, our classmates were all Black. Most of our teachers were Black too. And they were very clear with us that if we were going to make it, we had to be twice as good as anybody else. That means anybody white. They taught us many things that were probably not in the curriculum to be taught. And probably the greatest lesson I learned one day when I went downtown with my mother. My mother worked as a domestic worker. I think there's a book entitled Thursday and Every Other Sunday Off, because those were the days off of women who worked in service in the homes of white families. And on one of her days off, we went downtown to Steinbach's. Now, Steinbach's, as those of you who have been here for a while, was the store, you know. And so I was very excited to be going downtown with Mommy. And we went into the store. She had to buy a pair of stockings. Now, I see Sharon and I see Fern. It was not so easy for a Black woman to buy a pair of stockings in the 50s and the 60s. You had 2 choices. It was either red fox or black. And if you're going to church, you couldn't wear the black. And sometimes there would be a seam up the back. You couldn't wear that to church either. So we didn't have a lot of choices. If you went downtown, you might find a kind of a reddish color, but everything was nude and beige and barely there and not quite made for us. But one day, my mom decided that she was going to buy something from the hosiery counter. There were stockings. In those days, there were no pantyhose, people. You know, you had to wear a garter or a girdle or something like that. Or I know old Black women would pull the stockings up and roll them up above the knee and knot them to keep them from rolling down. But we went to Steinbach's and we went to the counter, and I think there was another person. So my mother waited, and the saleswoman finished waiting on that person. And then she turned to another person, and my mother and I were still standing at the counter, and she finished and waiting on that person, and she turned to another person. And after a time, my mother walked over to where the saleswoman was and said to her, "I don't have to beg and pay for it too." And she took me by the hand and we left the store. Now, I'm not going to say that's the last time we were in Steinbach, because that wouldn't be true. But I learned that just because I showed up with my money, everybody didn't think that that was a sufficient reason to wait on me and treat me equally. So I remembered that. Now, I don't remember having a problem in any other stores downtown Asbury Park, but I was a little kid. Where did I go? To the 5 and 10 cent stores, Woolworths and Newberry's. And You know, Woolworths had the first pizza in Asbury Park downtown. It was awful, but it was pizza. um, and I remember doing all kinds of wonderful things. We would finish with church, on Sunday, change our clothes, unless it was Easter. If it was Easter, we kept our clothes on, and then we went down to the boardwalk for the Easter parade. But any other Sunday, we would get out of church and Sunday school, change our clothes, and head for the boardwalk. And there were rides, and if we went to there was the fun house, and there was the casino, and there was the carousel. Oh, so much to do. And now when I go down there and I think I have my granddaughter with me, well, she's the littlest one now. There's not much for her to do. She's only 3. Miniature golf is not going to work. And the pinball machines, which I used to love when I was a kid, she's too little. So there's not much in the way of entertainment for children. But I loved being in Asbury Park. But I lived in my own little sphere. And all of us Black folks did. And as kids, we didn't really know. We were growing up and it was okay. And we were loved. We were well loved and well supported by the churches, community organizations, the Elks. I was a juvenile Elk. And there were the Elks parades. And we marched on Springwood Avenue in Asbury Park. And I even got to march in New York City and Philadelphia with the Elks. These were activities that were available to us as kids. The Westside Community Center had a wonderful program. You could go there for cooking. You might go there for dance class, tap, ballet. There was Girl Scouts there. I went to day camp there every summer. And my favorite thing to do at day camp was probably play jacks. Love to play jacks. I don't think anybody plays jacks anymore. So as a child, it was just the best place. We had Black professionals, F. Leon Harris, the mortician, Mr. Hunt was a mortician, and those were the older ones in my childhood. There were some before, and then Jackson came, I think, when I was a teenager. And Jackson is still around, and the Hunt family no longer owns the funeral home, but it's still called Hunt. Floyd Scott was an architect. I'd never heard of a Black architect after, well, of course I didn't know as a child, but when I grew up, I realized that there were not a lot of Black architects around. And here there was one right here in my hometown of Asbury Park. There were Black doctors and dentists. Not that we only went to them. Everybody who grew up in the 40s, 50s, 60s and on knew Dr. Vaccaro. And we went to Dr. Vaccaro, Sebastian, and he made house calls. He would come with his little black bag, and you know, money was tight. And if you didn't have the money, you didn't have to suffer and be sick. He would always make an arrangement with you. And that's one thing. I know many of you who are my age, I'm not telling you how old I am. I'm over 25. Will remember when our parents went to the little neighborhood stores or they sent us. Well, sometimes we didn't go with money. We would go and say, my mom told me to get a half a pound of cheese or a box of whatever. And the shopkeeper would take out a little worn pencil and mark it down in the book. And then at the end of the week, when mom or dad got paid, they would come and settle up the bill. That was very common here in Asbury and Neptune. But a couple of things did happen to me that I remember that were painful. When I was in high school, I had decided that I was going to go to nursing school. I was going to be a nurse, and so therefore, my mother said, and my mother was very astute. For a woman with a fourth grade education, I do not understand how she got to be so smart. Um, but she was, and she would find her way around things. I guess I inherited some of that from her, and she understood the ways and the hows and the whys and wherefores. And if somebody, much like Sister Isis, somebody said you can't do that, she said, "Oh no, yes, here's the way we do it," and off she would go. Um, and I was going to be a candy striper. Now, for those of you who are too young to know, candy stripers were young women who were going to be nurses, and they could volunteer in the hospital, and they would get a nice little uniform and a little cap akin to a nurse's cap, and that would set you apart. They would not allow me to become a candy striper. I can't remember what the excuse was. My mother was furious. Fitkins, the hospital I was born in. Now, Hackensack Meridian used to be Jersey Shore, and Jersey Shore used to be Fitkins Hospital. And if there are enough old Black folk around, they will tell you that was the butcher shop. Don't go to Fitkins. That's the butcher shop. That's what they called it. But Fitkins is where, since I went to Neptune High School, it was right around the corner. That's where I wanted to do my volunteering as a candy striper. And they would not allow me to be a candy striper. In the end, I was a volunteer. I got a little pink smock and a little, I don't know if it was my name, but a little tag. And they allowed me to volunteer in that way, but not as a candy striper. And that was heartbreaking. I was very upset. But the good news is I was loved and accepted in the community, and people believed in my ability to get things done. I played the piano as a child, so I played in church. I even got to play for one or two weddings. I don't think they ever let me play for a funeral. That was probably good. And in Neptune High School, it no longer exists. They had something called the Girls Athletic Association. And we were red and black because those were the colors of Neptune. And for gym, you either wore red socks or black socks, along with those lovely blue gym suits. Ladies, does everybody remember the lovely blue gym suit? The bloomers, yes. And Sharon Lucas will remember this. You could go to Fisher's department store on Springwood Avenue and get your name embroidered on your gym suit. And that would be the most stunning thing about that awful blue contraption that you had to wear. But every year there was a athletic contest. The Reds and the Blacks were pitted against each other, and we played games and climbed ropes and did all kinds of things to compete. And either the red team or the black team would win, and there'd be a trophy, I'm sure, that sat in the case for a year. But what there also was music, and there had to be a red piano player and a black piano player. There had never been a black or a red piano player before. And somehow in my senior year, I guess, I was the black piano player. Woohoo! That was a pretty big deal. I didn't really, I was kind of shy in a way. So I never could toot my own horn. So I didn't think playing the piano for the contest was a lot, but it really was. It really was a big deal. And that was something that I was very proud of. On the other hand, when it was time for graduation speakers to be determined, I knew that I had the chops. I had won at that point a couple of oratorical contests. I was a speaker in Asbury Park for local churches. The Black church always used to have teas And sometimes they'd have little dinners, fundraisers, and or they just have some kind of a program, music and poetry. And I was called upon over and over so often as a young person, from about the age of I don't know, 10 or 12, all the way up to my graduation from high school. And somebody would call my mother and say, "Can Lorraine come and be on the program?" So I had a lot of experience of speaking. I was very confident, and I did it well. And so when the call went out for speakers for high school graduation speaker, I said, "I can do that." And I told my mother I wanted to do that. And she said, "Sure, you should go do that." Um, and I don't know that I was the best person, but I certainly couldn't have been the worst. But they turned me down flat. And, this was 1968. Didn't see African Americans in lots of places yet. And so one of those places was standing up in front of the crowd at the Ocean Grove Auditorium speaking for the commencement service. So I did not get that. I was really disappointed. And later that summer, I won another oratorical contest. So I knew I had the chops. And also later that summer, I went up to college, or in the fall. And I went to Hampton, to a historically Black college. There's a running thing between Hampton and Howard. Hampton was HI because we were Hampton Institute, and then we became a university. So there were two HUs. But Howard is still the original HU. And I noticed one day recently that they're calling Hampton HIU, Hampton Institute University. So that was something I was very, very proud about. And I came back home. I had worked in a couple of other television jobs. That was my major, mass media. And I had worked in a couple of television jobs, one in Dayton, Ohio, where I met Phil Donahue, and became great friends with his secretary, and we hung out. When I came back home, there were no television stations in Asbury Park, but there was a newspaper. I didn't really want to be a newspaper. I wanted something glitzy, glamoury, TV. Well, in my little church, Bethel AME church that I had been born into, there was a man who had been a parishioner there. Well, he knew me all my life, and he was the driver for Tom Jobson, who was the publisher of the Asbury Park Press. And Mr. Ford knew I had graduated and that I was a communications major, and that meant I could write. And he said, I'm going to talk to him and tell him that I know a young woman that could be a writer for his newspaper. And I will skip all the details. I did become a writer, a reporter at the Asbury Park Press. And that was because Benjamin Ford, who knew my family and knew me all my life, spoke up. And the Asbury Park Press had one Black person on staff. That was Wes Moon. Wes was a sports reporter, and I understand that he occasionally did also some regular reporting, but mostly he was sports. So I was the first, certainly the first Black female and the first full-time African-American news reporter at the press. And that did me proud here in my old hometown. But going from here, I was a little bit sheltered here, very protected by the Black community. Very, very protected. As I said, churches, civic and social organizations all made room for children. They wanted us to have the best, be the best, and they thought the only way that could happen was if they supported us and nourished us, and they did. I'm not going to say there were not children that were not left by the wayside, that were poor and impoverished. Yes, there was a lot of poverty in Asbury Park when I was growing up. I dare say there is still poverty in Asbury Park to this very day. I thought I grew up middle class. I didn't know I was poor until, 20 years after I was out of Asbury Park or more. Because I always had a place to live. I had a roof over my head. I was the only child, and I think that must have made it a whole lot easier to take care of me. So my mother would do special things like for Easter. I always had a lovely Easter dress. Sometimes, I remember one Easter I had 3, ridiculous. And I also had the stupid Shirley Temple curls. I never was happy about Shirley Temple curls. But anytime it was a special occasion, my piano recital, I had them. I still have a picture of me on the stage at the Bangs Avenue School, standing in front of a huge display of gladiolas and other flowers in this white organdy dress with my Shirley Temple curls. And that was my first piano recital with Elizabeth Yeager Bell, who was a piano teacher on the west side of Asbury Park. She lived on Madison Avenue and taught lessons out of her home. And I went from her to another Black piano teacher, Mrs. James. She wasn't local. Her husband was military and they had moved here. And she started teaching piano lessons, so I went to her for a while. But I had everything I could possibly know that I wanted. When you don't have much, you think what you have is fine. And it worked for me. And Asbury Park and Neptune gave me a wonderful foundation. It helped me to become who I am today. Whoever that is, some days is probably better than others. But certainly my creative skills, my piano playing, most of you do not know I was a classically trained pianist from the age of 6. And then I went to college and said, I'm not touching a piano again. Yeah, there's more to that story, but we'll leave that undone. So I let my piano playing go, but I was a performance poet before I knew what that was. I learned some of the works of Paul Laurence Dunbar and James Weldon Johnson when I was still in high school and presented them here in the area. So that laid the foundation for me to grow and go to New York and be a New York City career girl and work for IBM and move all over. And it stood me in very good stead. And I am very proud of all that I received here. It didn't take away the sting when there were jobs that I was denied. And there was no other reason for the denial, it seemed, because of my color or my sex. But I knew that I was somebody, and I knew that I could achieve things. And that's because of what I got here. It taught me to stand up. It taught me to be a fighter. And I hope that I still carry those properties ahead of me. And there are lots of things that I still love to do, as you all know. And I will just bring my train right into the station right here. That's enough about me. Who's waiting in the wings? Gillian, I see you there.
Thanks so much. That was both of you. That was really lovely. I really resonated with a lot of what Lorraine said, namely about like wanting to, be a somebody and, yeah, and succeeding in that at times. Let me just get my phone. I'm going to use that as a recording device for my own self. Okay. So after those presentations, I realized that that what I have to say has a lot to do with isolation and perseverance and recognition of new things as I go on. Namely relating to what it means to be Black and what it means to be minoritized and what it means to be different and to be your own person. And I'm going to start with the poem that I wrote in 2014 after the Ferguson events and riots. And it's called "Is This What I Am to You?" A shooting on the television screen. The world shudders. I stay meek. Another boy with the same old outfit, left for dead with nothing to admit. Is this what I am to you? Another fire in St. Louis? What to give to live unimpaired? Let the media sign you off. The crimes are irrelevant, yet the land of the free is a pestilence. You do not see what I've done wrong. You take me for a villain. My people are heathens of unrest and betrayal. Chance for my death or to be the sound of a trail to victory over the monarchs of America. How do you know this so well? Because you love the thrill of this tale you tell. I hear the grandparents crying, "Revolution!" Our glory days have long, long passed. Our comfort zone is fire and bones. Now I'm going to go into what I actually wrote for tonight's event. You know, I honestly, I feel so, like, it's just very difficult to be vulnerable in an event like this, I suppose. And with my standpoint, I worry that I won't have the same things to say. Obviously, I won't, but I worry that they're not going to be, anyway. Deep in color. It's hard for me to write on this because I often feel disconnected from the issues affecting the Black community in this country. I was raised in an upper middle class neighborhood in a Nigerian American family with doctors as parents who got far in life. I have had mainly white friends and mainly been taken well for who I am, even as a transgender, queer, Nigerian American woman. I have experienced life as a Black man, and I have experienced life as a Black woman. There's a lot that I have experienced personally that has been both colored by my intersections and colored by my innermost personal ways. It can be argued very solidly that being perceived as a Black male was the insider for why I was suspended from my college years ago for talking to certain people, and why I was discharged from a pizzeria that same year just for having interest in a girl at the counter. As a Black woman, I'm not taken as threateningly, but I'm expected to be bold and loud and managerial. I'm not always any of these things, and quite often I am not. Managerial, namely. And as a trans woman, I am subject to people's anxieties over sex and scrutiny of my very own identity as a queer woman. When I was in 4th grade, I was very scholarly. I was described by a friend of mine as a white nigger. My brother was called a nigger by 2 classmates in middle school also. One didn't know what the word meant and cried upon learning. The other was very aware, did it despite him, and also continually called him poor. My brother punched him in the face. I had a chat with my brother, as I often do today, and we discussed how people are more afraid of being called racist than they are of racism itself. My friend might have been kidding, but it still roots from a judgment of me based on my skin color and heritage, and based around the idea that to be white is to be dapper and thoughtful, refined, while to be black is to be anything but. I imagine that there is an internalization that I have of these things. I tend to justify people when they do racist things, though granted, I guess it depends on what you define as racist, but that's another discussion. It makes sense for me to see why someone does it before how dare someone does it. I have dissociated myself from my assigned race, and it has left me confused in the context of topics that should be very clear to me, one supposes. I will now read a poem that should fill up much of the time slot that I have been allotted. Its title, Your Velvet Abode. One day I had an epiphany about all of those who have been oppressed by this country's fallen ways. By eyes turning the other way, by those who feel entitled to have our messes cleaned up by lesser peoples, and by my own misguided tendency to see myself as different from how others may see me, and as different from how I may even see those who resemble me most in the mirror. Your velvet abode. That child you besmirch with derision and generalization. Expectation of child's fate before child has sealed it. And surely so many have sought to be strong, and surely so many have not fought enough. And surely so many have fought harder than life could give them the same heart beyond this lifelong swan song of brother, sister, lover, friend, dearly departed. You did good. Because of you? Why, yes. Because you assumed. You assumed. We assume too much of one another. And yes, we must go with the knowledge we're allotted, but it can wear on the other. Some of you have heard of microaggressions, I'm sure. They are inevitable, but they can also easily turn macro. You call them names, benign, I suppose, till they snowball to mountains of resentment and shame. Your boyfriends threw the punches, slit the wrists, played with guns, and before they could win, death would crawl beneath their bones, goading that this is life, so live it, for it is good. Do not go gently into me. There's a place for you to build after you're 18. And when you ascended, as the cocoon they trapped you in mandated, someone would swat that bug who came into your velvet abode. Your velvet abode. The velvet abode is a dwelling, a large one in which one is welcomed, one is cared for. Tired, poor, but never quite considered owner. It is the expectation of becoming fit one day for said abode, through a perpetual wait, a perpetual work, a perpetual struggle, a perpetual escape. A bug to swat, a bug born to be brave without any choice, and ever more trapped in a world she does not own. But I've always been different, you see. I will always be. And I have so many white allies, etc., etc. I begin to see myself in them and them in me, more than I see my own skin in me. And I am accepted well beyond the Rainbow Passage. I am accepted beyond the blackened poplar trees, and love for long was just the birds and the bees, very simple, impurities to garnish your velvet abode. The Rainbow Passage. This is a text used by trans women to read in hopes to accomplish a new vocal pattern that by their standard better fits them. And in short, I am the only person like me. It's all expressed here, so very cryptically, in such a way that it almost mirrors my own encryption. And these impurities are just another addition to the population. My diversity is just another color to know. Thankful for it I was, and I was good to speak. But life would shuffle me through problems of my own, and some, beyond demographics, incapacitated my vision and my cause for belief. And so I thought the red roses were just thorny breeds, just the way they were, gallantly planted pastoral seams. Dreams to garnish your velvet abode. Every red rose, every beautiful swan of the land, so perfectly imperfect. Perhaps this is a harsh accusation of charge, but things are dark in this contest, so why not? These golden children of America, you know, everyone was these. Simple, innocent. I was a sort of naive, but you know, you live, you learn. That ties in again. Things to garnish your velvet abode, your melting pot, our all-American soup. I've had problems distinctly my own, not tied to intersectional relations, and I've had concerns that have been tied to them, as a Nigerian American queer transgender woman. And I was naive, optimistically, and maybe I still am. But you gotta hope, right? And I always ask, why am I always last? Why do I think I can thrive before I even work to survive? Why do others protect me before my own 2 feet? My own 2 hands? I know I've fought, and I know I've been lazy. And I know I've fallen in love with weeds. I know I've fought to save the trees. And often I plead, what's the matter with you? Man in the mirror. And it breaks my heart. The child in me, crumbling like the morsel of a biscuit, trembling Brent is waiting in the distance, whispering a name under which were I born again, maybe I'd have been. Life could have been simpler, like so many of you. So many of you I'd rather be. And it breaks my heart. If I ever loved anybody fully, always 1 foot on the ground, I find myself protecting myself, truly through the guise of vulnerability expressed eloquently and with charm. That way, maybe they'll love me too. Love saves us all, so they say. But can I save myself then? In a world where I cannot find myself beyond myself. Perhaps I have to settle. Perhaps I have to stay coddled. Perhaps I have to live with the cards and name I've been given. The culture of the man rotting beyond blue-eyed sin, beyond the forgiven souls of them who in candor, in passing, in collective sleep, left half the world, boys and girls, beholden to the home and the rush of his hand, and classified to the projects with powdered sugar as deceit, held down and thrown to the prison cell of boats that deport them to whence they came before they worked for you, building businesses and sweeping floors in perfect English that was never enough. Everyone was a woman to you, and few were ever anywhere near as pure. And you assumed her that much purer than you, that less worldly, free of desire. Most, their color would turn to ash, impurities of a primitive abode. This one is more clear, at least somewhat. Everyone other than that image of Western ideal. They were second, third, and last. Runoff of this remains to this day. And it's hard to tell what we do with it. I mean, sure, things have gotten better, but we still find division. And we still find in the projects in the lesser districts of Asbury Park, in rundown cities, a difference of fortune. What do we do? And you led me to believe that I was just like you, even as everything queer all I am. And so it goes. Welcome home. Your sorrowful seeds that plant new trees amid the pastures that recall so well that you were not kind. From time to time, impurities of a primitive abode. And of course, usually you were not the villain. Often, you were and are a force for good. I really do mean and believe that. Do not compare the child in me to the worker I was meant to be. Do not compare a child to a worker. For as he walks, as he stumbles, as she frolics, as she weeps, and vice versa, your gavel, in attempt to change, it brings them only shame. Your judgment is a pariah to them, and I wish for you not to turn them weak. I wish for you not to bury their joy just to serve their soil. And if your freedom is gone, then learn again to be free. And I thank you for the skyscrapers. And I thank you for the dreams. And a part of me is addicted to defending you. A part of me is addicted to defending the cisgender, heterosexual, white male effigy that symbolizes and bookends the capitalistic culture at large. I am none of this, yet I want entry. And oftentimes I get it. I get entry. I'm gotten. My parents are doctors. They are not poor. I come from wealth. And likely has clouded and guarded me and gotten me into trouble, internal trouble. I am learning every day. Not everyone is as kind as the friends I do have in this community who give me the time of day. I am learning the viciousnesses of the world. I wish I could taste it more than I see, because we have to do better. I will now sing a song about how this collective distress that we all feel is right to feel, but how it can be disillusioning at times, in these times we're in, and how it is yours and ours to build truth from all the more. What are we? A continental lawn, proving to build a master of our moods. What are we? Threats to the peace, and all across the shake our troubles away. Burn the tapes I know so well. Save the sand and never tell. Let me rest amid my restlessness. Carrying master, and will shout. For nothing lingers much at all. What are we? Oh my god, wait. Honestly, I have to go to the restroom. I'll be right back. I know. Just a second.
That's what comes out of her.
So this is a fine time for people to take a 2-minute break. I was just saying, you know, it's been an hour and a half since we started, so a couple minutes. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Don't forget that. That's what I'm doing.
While we're waiting, I'd like you guys to think about answering the question, how does hearing some of these experiences affect the way that you fight anti-racism or become anti-racist? How do hearing these stories change your work or affect your work?
You have to go forward in the world and do what you have to. You have to go forward in the world, do what you can to help save yourself first, and then the nation. Because if we don't help one another, then we're doomed.
I can't believe I just did that. Anyway.
On a comment on that for food for thought, in addition to the question in the air atmosphere. Racism has been well and alive below the Canadian border. It's not a North thing, it's not a Southern thing, it's all of America. And awareness that's been brought to you because of social media and internet and other things that we have going on now. This is a moment of awareness, and most of you on this Zoom may not have been aware. I am originally from Mississippi. Miss Lorraine, Sister Isis, those are my girls there. We all know about, I can tell you about some stuff. You may not have been aware of what we have been enduring in America. What you're seeing now, George Floyd and all those circumstances, police brutality, that's not new to Black and Brown America. That's been our customary way of life. So when you think about the question that's been posed, think about the awareness those of you are now probably becoming more aware of, because the racism that you've been living in as a comfortable privilege, you may not have thought there was any difference or problem. And I'm going to tell you, like I said, below the Canadian border, racism has been well and alive 400 years. Monmouth County is more segregated and racist than my home location of Hinds County, Mississippi. And I'm talking about 2020, just so you're aware. And I'm a woman of a certain age, I'm early 60s now, but in 1981, I was the 6th Black registered nurse on all 3 shifts at Jersey Shore Medical Center, formerly Fickens Hospital. Okay, so just throw that in for food for thought. You're all in a new awareness. This stuff you see going on social media, that's been Black America all along. I just want to throw that out there.
Good evening. I'm a native of Monmouth County, and in
Jillian,
1978.
I'm so sorry, Miss Cassandra. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but Jillian, you're gonna finish your song, right? Or you can even start over. I'm very sorry to interrupt. I'm making Jillian wasn't done with her song. She was just taking a break.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
But there is time for people to comment in a few minutes.
All right. Yeah. Might as well now. Yeah. Okay. What are we? Wanting along, a roving to build a master of all moods. Are we? A thirst to the peace, at all costs we shake our troubles away.
Excellent.
And to say, I'll say also that was written after, shortly after the George Floyd ambush. I noticed that that what happened was just plainly wrong, and then I also noticed that, like, I wonder how we'll actually resolve the issue of racism, because everything just seems like infinite bandages, and I find that there has to be events like these where people get to have candid discussions where the white perspective is just as important as the black perspective, just from a human perspective, and that we're all, you know, roving to build a master of our moods of society, basically, and like we're all looking to placate ourselves amid all the violence we see, and then in the end, distress is ours to have as a symptom, a reminder of where we need to go. So that was the main spirit behind that. Thanks.
Thank you, Jillian. Anyone else want to share?
Well, I want to thank you all for this program. It was uplifting, just as uplifting as it was the last time. As I started to say, as a native of Monmouth County and a young person who was always on the move, I never forget the night I drove home from Long Branch and saw the lighting of a KKK cross behind the racetrack. And I had a four-speed Pinto, and all I could do was pray, God, don't let me strip the gears, because I was so incensed coming from a organizational meeting of community service. And I didn't know that that was such a reality until I got home and I shouted and woke everybody up and said, you know, I saw this, I saw this. And my father said, who's from Neighborsink and Atlantic Highlands, clearly said to me, oh yeah, that happens here, that's happened there. I said, well, you never told me. And I'm someone who in 6th grade did a thesis on the question of Jim Crow and learned all this history of my people and did not know that it was so prevalent right here in Monmouth County. And that was startling. Later, I have since done more investigative work on that. But when you ask the question about racism and anti-racism, I can't change my color. But all I do is try hard to not put myself in a position or to be alert now because of the way our leader of our country has attacked the merits and the validity of people of color's right to vote and so forth and so on. I try to make sure that I'm ever mindful to not have my guard down, that at any time, if someone wants to take umbrage against me because of the color of my skin or because of my sex, I have to be mindful to be alert. And it's a tiring experience, and it's daunting. And I wish sometimes I didn't know the history that I know of this country, because I would have loved to have been blissfully ignorant in this time. But I'm grateful I'm really not. And I thank you all for these presentations. I thank you for the presenters. I thank you, Sister Isis, for not folding on that hurtful experience that you witnessed, but bringing joy and kindness and love into the world. You are a walking poster for your products. You look so radiant and beautiful every time I see you. And I just thank you for just sharing what you know and giving love instead of hate, because you could have given hate for the hurt that you have experienced. God bless you.
May I add a comment to Ms. Keys? Ms. Keys, I happen to know of your family, some of your folks in that territory. And just for the information, the history background in Monmouth County, Ocean Grove, Camp Evans in Wall Township, and Long Branch were regular KKK rally locations. The Klan is still active and alive in New Jersey. And I believe it was 2006 in Hamilton, New Jersey, they submitted a permit application for gathering, and the mayor at that time denied it. So we have to wake up. This is not a thing gone by. This is not the past. This is present. This is the reality. That's it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Fern. You're on mute.
Okay. Hello. I was very moved by the fact that it's been mentioned quite recently, just a few minutes ago, about the KKK, because my mother, who was born in 1918 in Asbury Park, wrote a history of Asbury Park during the time she was in kindergarten until the time she graduated from college. And she starts the story out with the clip clop of the horses marching from the beginning of Springwood Avenue in Neptune. And she was running down the street to see what all the noise was, and all the people were moving around and running away. And the children that she was with said, "We have to get home. The men with the horses and the white robes and the hoods on their head are marching down Springwood Avenue on their horses." And she said that was the first time that she had ever heard of the Ku Klux Klan. So yes, the Ku Klux Klan was and is very much in New Jersey. Thank you.
Does anybody have any thoughts on the question that was put out? Views on racism from the audience?
Well, I know for me, knowing this history and then hearing it firsthand puts a life to it, makes it much more personal. It's almost abstract when you read about it. And then when you hear from someone's personal history, the things that they have gone through, it resonates much, much deeper.
I agree, Amy. It's really even more sobering to hear it firsthand like that. Very sobering and very sorrowful. So thank you to all the speakers.
I would like to just say that white people can play a role in protecting Black people, or being in solidarity is a very real thing. For instance, if you see a Black person who has been stopped by the police on the street, you know, if you're driving, it's more difficult, but stop and look and watch and see what's happening. There is a need for not only solidarity, you know, but in thought and expression, politically and socially, but in reality. And I'll just, well, it's 7:55, so I don't think this is the time for me to start sharing stories, but there's a risk that's involved, obviously. The police do not like it when white people stand in solidarity with Black people. But I know a lot of us here are older, and I'm not asking anybody to put themselves in mortal danger, but there is a reality to that. And perhaps we could have a session next time. Well, I would like to share some of these stories, but I think now is not the time because it's almost 8 o'clock and we do want to share a few follow-up items. But I'll just tell you, I've been arrested 10 times and I was not breaking any laws. And it's because I was an activist in Chicago. I posting flyers, witnessing the police harassing Black folks, and they don't like it. But it is necessary. It's one of the things that it's called for, in my opinion. I just want to, and especially in response to the fact of the Klan and the presence of the Klan here. But Amy, I know there was, well, I would like to speak again after Amy and Lorraine share their the action items, but also if anybody does want to comment further, I don't want to interrupt that. But I know thank you.
One thing that everyone needs to understand, racism can, for the most part, only be broken down, eliminated by white people. Black and brown people only account for averaging 15% of the entire United States population. The ones with power, the definition of racism, those in power don't look like me, the Black girl. It's the white people that control the power. If you see something, say something. The mantra from 9/11, see something, say something. Rethink words you say. Rethink things that your family says. Rethink things that your friend says. Stop it and correct it right then and there. Not, oh, I'm gonna let this go. No, those are initial steps you can take. We can take one step at a time to break and change that. Like I said, in 1981, I was the 6th Black registered nurse, Jersey Shore staff. I've had patients seriously ill talking about they don't want no niggas taking care of them. And I tell them, well, I don't know what you're gonna do since I'm the one in charge. Figure that part out. So that's just some food for thought. You want to change racism, change yourself. And because it doesn't directly affect you, change anyway. Step out there. That's all.
So at this time, we'd like to share with you some action items that you can do. I believe that fighting racism is a multi-level project. And in addition to a personal searching for anti-bias and learning about racism and connecting with other people, we need to fight racism at the policy level. And there are quite a few organizations in New Jersey that are doing amazing work. One of them is the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. And another one is the Salvation and Social Justice. And another one is UU Faith Action New Jersey. All three of these organizations, along with the ACLU and the NAACP, work with the politicians in New Jersey to create bills that are more to work on racial justice, to end the wealth gap. Lots of criminal justice bills are coming up. And one bill that is coming up is the cannabis legislation. So cannabis was legalized by the people by vote. And the first bill that was presented by the Assembly had the profits going to the police stations around the state. The bill that was presented by the Senate was much fairer and had the money going to the communities that were hardest hit by the drug war. So if you go to any of these websites that I'll put in the chat, you can sign up for alerts. And when these bills come up to vote, you can call your representatives and let them know what you think. It really does make a difference. Sarah?
Okay, so there's an important role to be played in, like Ms. Jones, Teresa said, the population of the country needs to be on board. You know, it's Black folks alone are not going to change the situation. So one of the things that we can do, all of us here who are conscious of the need for change, is get others involved and aware. And there's a film called The Long Shadow, which is a very thorough documentary that captures the construction of race in this country as a justification for enslavement and as a way to separate the working people. And it also illuminates, I see, Ms. Keys, you mentioned Reconstruction showing on NJTV. Very important. Reconstruction never happened. It barely happened. It stopped. And this documentary, The Long Shadow, is an account of that, and a number of other things, including the federal government's enforcement of discrimination against Black folks through redlining in the 40s. And the reason we mentioned The Long Shadow is because here's the thing, and I won't go on at too much length, but the people who've spoken today, the women of color who've spoken today are leaders in the community through being willing to speak publicly about their experiences. And those of us who have organized this are playing a leadership role. We are helping to facilitate the increased understanding of others. However, everyone in this meeting needs to be a leader. And please consider taking up a greater degree of responsibility and putting yourself out there. And there's actually, The Long Shadow has a ready-made process. They will help you organize a screening at the library in your town. New Jersey has a ton of towns with a ton of libraries, and they are doing stuff online. They're very friendly. The Long Shadow, many of you, or some of you saw this through the UUCMC over the summer. But so the action item is help to educate others in an organized fashion. And what you can do is, you help to bring others together. What's happening here seems like sort of a minority of people, and it is, but that can change because most Americans want a just society. We know that. I think we do know that. And we have to give people an opportunity to learn and to get involved. So I ask everyone, or I ask you to consider The Long Shadow. And there's going to be an email going out to the registrants of this Zoom with material. Well, Lorraine is going to be speaking about something else, and there's going to be some follow-up email about that. And it also will include a link to The Long Shadow, but I'm also going to put it in the chat. And they, like I said, they are very friendly. They're very interested in getting the film out, and they will work with you if you are willing to identify a venue, a church, a library, a borough, even the boroughs, anybody can organize a Zoom call. So it is a beautiful thing, and I hope people will consider. And also I see Carrie thanking Ghost Harbor where we are right now. Yes, so in Asbury, but so thank you. And Lorraine, if you're ready. Oh, I'm sorry. I do have one more thing. I'm going to send out a note about this, but Sister Isis is working with a woman, Helen McCauley, McCahill, and they are looking at a piece of land in Holmdel, renovating a nursing home, which I guess is closed, and there's basically a development for at-risk women, housing and supportive services that is in the works, and the information about this will also be in the follow-up email. So, sorry to go on. Thank you.
Okay. When we considered what people could do to get involved, because it's great that you have joined us and you're an attentive audience, but times like these call for action. So the thing that I thought of, I don't know if it was me or somebody else, was to speak to your educators regarding the Amistad law. I don't want to prolong this, but I don't even know how many of you know what the Amistad law is. Can you raise your hand if you know what the Amistad law is? Okay.
There's a couple of screens.
Not you, Amy.
You want to actually do a poll? A
Yeah.
quick show of hands? Or?
Oh, no, that's okay. So, the Amistad law started out as an act and then became a bill. Was signed into law in 2002 by Governor McGreevey. And it was, the short version is to have it be a way to get education of African and African American studies, literature, and history into the public school system. This is 2020. Some of you out there may have grandchildren who are still in school. Most of us, our children have moved on. Yay. But when we were in school, there was not much at all taught in the way of history. And so the Amistad law of African or African American history. So the Amistad law is raising that, bringing that to question. The Amistad Commission was then formed, and its goal really says this really well. It's not too long. Its goal is to promote awareness for the study of African American and Africans while placing them at the center of the narrative, rather than having them as bystanders. I'm sorry. So, there's I think it's an African proverb that says, you don't really know the outcome of the war until you talk to the loser, because the victor is going to give you his story. And so approaching the teaching of history with Africans and African Americans at the center of it, rather than recipients of some of the good things that came, is a completely different way to look at things. And you have no idea how powerful just that little shift around is. Now, in nearly 20 years, very few school districts have expanded their curriculums to include a deeper dive into history. However, as of late, it was October, I believe, there is a new law that has been passed by our legislators. It's a bill. It's been passed, waiting to be signed into law. That law would put the Amistad Commission under the auspices of the New Jersey Department of Education, which is a much stronger place for it to be, because curriculum decisions are made there. Excuse me. So, since the governor has to sign it, if you would consider writing a letter to the governor and asking him to please sign the new bill that could be turned into law, And if it does become law, schools will be mandated to teach Black history. They will have to teach. They will have to teach about. Sarah is being the peanut gallery over here. There will be mandates instead of just. I'm going to say the Amistad Law and Commission has been a feel-good thing because we have not gotten a lot of change out of it. So two things. You could certainly write the governor and say, I understand there may be a new version of the Amistad Law, and I support your signing it because it would mean African and African American history, which is taught from kindergarten to high school level in New Jersey. That's the way that law, the current law, is written. We want our children to have this. And I think in some of the, in what Sarah was sending, there is, or Amy, somebody is sending some information on students who are asking for changes, who want more powerful education, as it in terms of African and African American history. Your letters can also go to superintendents, principals. Board of Education, I think, is too far removed. They don't make curriculum decisions. But if you are in a local district, and of course, if you live somewhere, there is a school district where you are, you can certainly make the request that that district include an Amistad curriculum. Most, as I said, most districts have not done anything. But if you reach out to your school districts and say, we would like to see a difference in the way African American and African history is taught, that could make a difference. So Sarah is going to include a sample letter when she sends out information. And Amy, are you including the articles that you sent to the four of us about the students in Cherry Hill?
I can do that, yeah.
Yes, I think that would be very good because I think not a lot of people even know what this is. So before you go knocking on people's door saying, I want you to change this, we'll give you some more information so you can be empowered in your request. Okay.
Miss Lorraine, I can give you an update.
Oh, okay.
The Citizens for a Diverse Community and then other education organizations across the state have been addressing this. And one of the issues has been the Amistad Commission is only a commission of 4. So there's a request for expansion. However, the law is mandated. A curriculum is written and is available. The issue goes back to the point of New Jersey being biased and racist because it is being addressed in communities that look like the Black and the brown people. And other organizations have been pressing and pushing for other communities to be included. So you can put the pressure on the boards of education and superintendents because they know what the law is. And the Amistad Commission not just includes the African American, but also Native American. And actually all it sums up to say is you must provide the complete history.
Yeah.
Those communities have been the omitted history. And as Lorraine said, the winner of the war is the one that's telling the story. It's not just having Black History Month and Martin Luther King Day and Harriet Tubman. That's it. That's all.
Thank you, T.
You're welcome.
I think we could go on all night, but it's well past 8 and we've lost half our audience. I want to thank everyone for coming. We're having another session in January, on January 3rd. And we have some guests that are coming that have faced police violence at Black Lives Matter rallies, and they're going to share their stories about it. So we hope to see you then. We'll be sending an email with further information. Do you want to say something, Sarah?
Yeah, just per Carrie Butch, thank you to the Ghost Harbor Gallery here on Bangs Avenue in Asbury, who let us come and hang out. Let us come hang out in their beautiful gallery. 714 Bangs Avenue in Asbury. Caroline and David. So just to thank them, I apologize for forgetting that. Now we remember.
Okay.
So that is all.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
good
you,
night,
everyone.
everyone.